Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit, piggyback off of some of the discussion Jim gave in regards to airports. And Ray had asked that we give a little update on the California TNC bills. There's been a lot of activity up in Sacramento over the past year, and we wanted to go ahead and let everyone know what's been happening up in that area. First of all, I thought I would start off with a little information about Uber and their lobbyist activity. And some of this information, I normally make up a lot of good stuff. I'm not making this stuff up. I'm actually reading some articles on this. So these are the information that I'm getting from a lot of our trade association magazines and the Wall Street Journal. But Uber's on obviously, many of us know, in a very serious lobbyist onslaught. It's been reported that Uber has over 250 lobbyists across the country, which is a huge number. In the state of California alone, they're spending close to $700,000 last year on getting their initiatives and their bills pushed up in Sacramento. So that's a big ticket right there. And they've really worked on 6 major bills during this year that I'm going to sort of summarize a little bit on each one. I'm certainly not an expert in each one of these. There's probably people in this room that are smarter than me about it. I know Paul Marin knows a lot about it, Stephanie and Abu and others. So feel free to either jump in, or as we get questions going, feel free to jump in on answering some of those, because I know we're all very well detailed on what's going on there. One of the first bills that got hit, that came out in Sacramento, that actually didn't really quite see the light of day, got pushed back pretty quick, was AB 24. AB 24 was initiated by the taxi industry, and it had 3 main pieces to it. It was going to put the Public Utilities Commission in a position to regulate the TNCs, and it was going to have the TNC specifically participate in the pull notice program and participate in drug testing. I don't know if it detects snuff, Eric, but I think most of the other drugs would be covered by that. I've got a sort of detail here. Everybody will receive this presentation so you can read into it later. But unfortunately, that bill got suspended very early in the process. I think for $684,000 of lobbying money, they probably got that one listened to quite a bit and pushed out. So unfortunately, that didn't go forward. But we're looking forward to see if that can get some legs next year. Another bill is 61. I know Jeff's been dealing with this quite a bit. This is in regards to shuttle buses using the metro stations. It's not as much tied to the shared ride industry. It doesn't necessarily discuss airport transportation at this time, but there's a lot of shuttle and employee buses that use the muni stations in San Francisco, go to large companies such as Google, Genentech, and Facebook, transport employees in and out of the city. Those buses, represented by a few companies here too, by the way, we're using the muni buses or muni bus stops. So now San Francisco has moved to get some revenue from that. 828's an interesting one. It sort of updates and helps clarify some of the information that the state has in regards to actually the definition of commercial vehicles. And what the TNC group is trying to do here is to take all that information in statutes and such and formalize who's a commercial vehicle and who is not. Their push is to make it so that any personal vehicle, like a TNC, UberX, and Lyft, that are driving do not get defined as a commercial vehicle, which by doing that eliminates a lot of the requirements and regulations that commercial vehicles such as super shuttle taxis, everybody has to adhere to. This is now sort of in an investigation stage of what the impact would be on that, and this bill is setting it up so the Public Utilities Commission takes a very formal look at what implications that would have if they went ahead and made it so that personal vehicles, even for hire, would not have to apply for commercial licensing and those type of requirements. 886 is also an interesting bill, not necessarily quite tied to issues in the shared ride industry, but it's set up to enhance consumer privacy protection. Uber tracks every piece of information about you when you ride with them. They know where you're going, when you're going, where you're going. I think there were some comments made by Uber executives, either in context or out of context, sort of threatening that they have all this great information on everybody that they can use to their benefit and to your detriment, depending on what you're up to. So anyway, this is a bill set up that would limit their ability to be able to use that profile information. That's very important, I think, for public privacy, but also if you're a TNC, they're transporting passengers right now, but we all know they've got grand ideas about what to do with all this information that they're gathering on each and every one of us every day, where we're going and for marketing purposes and selling that information. So although this doesn't affect the shared ride industry as much, it's certainly something that, that Ubers and those types of companies are keeping a very tight eye on. 1422 is a good bill. Jim's been working on this one. This would help bring pull notice program in for all TNCs. This one is still alive, I believe, Jim?
Yes.
Okay. So we'll see what happens with this. What's interesting is Uber is actually not opposing this bill as much as some of the other ones, and I believe that their strategy on this is when we're talking about federal background checks and fingerprinting and making sure that drivers are compliant, they will lean back on this bill and say, well, 1422 passed, that's a pull notice program, that ensures safety of the public, and you guys don't need anything else from us. That would be their strategy on that piece. And then the last one is 1360, which is the most important one for us. This bill is actually in suspension as well for this year. It's going to definitely come up next year. This would have given TNCs the ability to do shared ride transportation, split fares amongst people. It did not necessarily give them the authority to do that at the airport, because that would be more of an airport authority piece, but it would allow them in cities to pick up and drop off, share fares. It would be a big hit on the taxi industry. It would change the landscape quite a bit. So this is an important one. We are happy to see that this one has been tabled for further discussion. It would have been very big for, as I say, the taxi industry immediately, and then long term I think it would have had effect on airports and shared ride companies transporting people back and forth. So a little bit here, I pulled this out of an article as well. I mean, Uber's trying to obviously maximize profits, and what they're trying to do is reduce what is expected from the transportation providers. A lot of it I've already discussed a bit today. If TNCs are allowed to stay out of the commercial zone or the commercial infrastructure or regulations that we're dealt with, I mean, it changes the game on insurance and airport fees. ADA compliance has been a big issue. I think they've pretty much kicked the can down the road a little bit on that issue. Obviously the background checks, and I think by allowing them to do some of this, it'll go ahead and reduce public safety long term. And the heart of the issue here with these guys, and I said this before, is these guys are, they're buying market share, right? They're giving severe discounts to customers. If you're an Uber or Lyft customer, you use Uber every Friday for 2 or 3 weeks and you stop using them, you get an email that you get $10, please come back. Well, Lyft's doing the same thing. So a lot of people are playing both apps against each other. Okay, they're getting $10 from Uber, a couple weeks later they're getting $10 from Lyft, and that kind of stuff is going to continue here. But if you look at the policies from Uber on surge pricing, these days will end, because they have no intentions of continuing to give away this type of stuff. They're clearly buying market share. They're subsidizing drivers, and we will not see that forever either. If you've seen some recent articles, drivers are very upset about the discounting that they're giving, that they sort of got an 80-20 split where the driver gets 80% of the revenue. Every time they discount $1, driver loses 80 cents on that. They're getting very upset about that. But they are subsidizing drivers. I know firsthand my experience with Uber Pool, which is not supposed to be running at SFO, but Abu knows that it's hard to regulate, it's hard to manage that. They are operating there. I've used them a couple of times. It's a $15 ride downtown, and you can make up to 2 stops, so somebody else could come in for $15 as well. A couple times I've used it, I get in, and as we're leaving, the driver gets another customer to pick up, and he said, I'm not going to pick them up for 2 reasons. 1, Uber's paying me $30 whether I pick them up or not, and 2, I'll be able to get you downtown for a taxi fare of $15, which is good for you as well. We can't afford to do that. I don't think many of us can, but that's the kind of subsidies that they're doing right now. I read an article, interesting article that many of us have probably read. These guys are burning through a lot of money. $75 to $100 million a month. Subsidies, lobbying efforts, legal efforts, all those types of things. So they've got the ability to do that. We'll see how long that lasts. But they've raised a lot of money as well, so I don't have any preconceived notion that it'll be anytime soon. And then at the heart of the issue is this background checks. Uber needs to sign drivers fast. That's their model, is to drive as many, pick up as many drivers as they can. For two reasons. One, they need more drivers, but two is their churn rate is unbelievable. I don't have a number on that. I've seen some articles around. Other people may want to comment on that. But drivers come in, you see articles or you see advertisements in New York City, you know, make 25 bucks an hour, $500 incentives. They're doing that because they need a lot of drivers. They're not doing that for any other reason than that. And they're giving out a lot of different types of incentives to do that. So that's sort of at the heart of the issue. Give you a little idea of some of the bills that we see coming up in California. Some are in suspension now, but Uber and those guys will come back with a new strategy next year to go ahead and push those forward. Thanks.